102.5 The Game, ESPN Radio, Nashville.
We're all saying to themselves, why the hell did I ever get to know this group? And one of those folks, that's Danny, who just decided to cough in the middle of it. And Danny Evans just apparently lost it there. And our old buddy Jimmy Bank, who for years was a traveling secretary on the major league level with the Cubs, a variety of things that we have known with Jimmy. He joined us a few minutes ago at our broadcast site. How in the world are you?
I'm actually doing fantastic, and I mean that sincerely. I'm doing great. I've been out of baseball for about 2 months now, and I feel like a new person.
Really? So you're not sure you're getting back in?
Not as a traveling secretary for a lot of reasons, including there are only 30 positions, and they're all filled. But if you have a few hours, we can talk about what a traveling secretary job is. Danny knows. But no, I think those days are way behind me. But we'll see what happens, and I'll do something or nothing.
Danny, I want you to think back because I'm going to give you an array of people that were in on this dinner. This has been, let's say 10 years ago, maybe. Montgomery Inn, great ribs place in Cincinnati. And it's a Sunday night of Memorial Day weekend where we are going and we've seen the Cardinals and the Reds on a Sunday afternoon, and then the Cubs and the Reds are playing on Monday. So the Cubs have just gotten into town. And here's Jimmy Bank. Here is Chip Carey, the late Ron Santo, and the late Arnie Harris. Okay, and for those of you who don't remember Arnie Harris, Harry used to talk about him all the time during the broadcast. And, Arnie, what do you think? Whatever. And so I am soaking all this in at the Montgomery Inn, listening to all this load of bull that's going on, and Arnie is trying to teach me what a trifecta is in horse racing. Jimmy, tell people a little bit about some of that group that was there that night.
Arnie lived to bet on the horses. That's what the game just got in the way of him going to the track. So one day we're in San Diego, and Arnie goes, he knew I loved to watch highlight. And he goes, hey, they've got highlight over in Tijuana. Why don't we just take the trolley down, and I went, great. And I said, there's a factory outlet shop for polo shirts or something. You get polo shirts for like $15. But they were the real polo shirts, so it was a great deal. So he goes, let's go. So we go down and we walk in the highlight fronton, and he's like, man, you're going to love this and everything. And we're sitting there, and it was like 5 minutes into it, I'm sitting there getting into it, and he goes, hey, I'll be right back. I said, where are you going? He goes, they got a sports book attached here. He goes, I'll be over there. And I went, I thought we were going to highlight. He goes, no, pal, I'll be over here. Everybody was pal. He goes, hey, pal, I'm going over here. And I didn't see him again for like an hour, and I walked over, and he's sitting there watching the horse races and betting. I'm like, really, you came down here for highlight? That was Arnie. He was great.
Oh,
Arnie
he was a
awesome.
Piece of work.
And we don't have time for the Ron Santo stories, but and then Chip, I can't use on the air stuff with him.
Right.
But who I still talk to Chip every chance I get. We're still dear friends. And I will tell you this, the Ron Santo stories are unbelievable. And let me say, as good-hearted person as I've ever met in my life, who I love dearly, and I was fortunate enough to go to dinner with him every off night on the road. With all of his health issues, I was one of his caretakers on the road, even though he didn't like people taking care of him. Mm-hmm. But when something would go wrong, it was always my fault. Or when and I'll tell you a pretty good story. This is maybe one. Ron Santo every day would forget something somewhere. Okay, on the plane, the broadcast booth, the hotel. Now he was diabetic. He ended up losing both legs. And I used to tell him, Ronnie, next to my dad, you're the toughest man I've ever met in my life. He would go on the road. He had a pacemaker. He had he lost his bladder to cancer. He lost both legs, and he still traveled with us everywhere. So I get a call from him one day. We were in Pittsburgh, and then we went to Cincinnati. And It's about 10 in the morning. He calls my room. Hey, and he never could get to the point. It was always, Jimmy, listen, can you call the Pittsburgh Hotel and check? I left a pair of legs in the room. And I knew he was serious because I know him. And I said, okay. And he goes, I can tell you exactly where they are in the room. I went, Ronnie, I think they can find them. And he goes, I can describe them for you.
Right. Don't need it.
And I went, no. He goes, well, they're my shower legs. They're like a big long metal rod, and it's like they've got a big condom on them. It's just the plastic covering. I went, Ronnie, okay, I'll call the hotel. And he goes, if they find them, could you ask them to overnight them because I need them tomorrow? And they found his legs and they overnighted them. So, and that was not an unusual story with him. I mean, I could sit here for hours and tell you Ron Santo stories.
We've got 2 minutes. How did both of you meet Nick?
I met Nick through Ron Schuler, who was my boss, the general manager of the White Sox at the time. He had just started, and we played an exhibition game down here in Nashville.
Oh, I remember it.
And I think it was a rainy day. And I met Nick that day, and to be honest with you, I met a lifelong friend. It was just a fabulous, fabulous friendship.
Yeah. Now, Jimmy, you all talked 18 times a day, it looked to me like, on the phone.
Roughly.
How did you meet him?
He was an Oakland A's fan.
Yep.
And we were in Oakland one time playing, and I was talking to the clubhouse guy there, and I said something about, I like Hank Williams Jr. You know, he goes, oh, you like Hank? And I said, yeah. So about a week or two later, I get a box in the mail of every Hank Jr. album ever recorded in a Hank Jr. jacket with a little note. Hey, I heard that you like Hank. Enjoy it. It's Nick. So I called Steve Vucinich, the clubhouse guy, and I said, hey, what's up with this? He goes, that's my friend Nick Hunter. Wanted to send you that stuff. And I went, how many tickets is this going to cost me? And he goes,
little did you know.
He goes, none. The guy will never ask you for tickets. Really? I think the last count was,
right.
And it's still happening through the friends I've met through Nick.
That was
it's
some
bad
info,
thousands.
man. That was bad info.
And the bad thing is the three biggest mooches in that deal.
You're looking
Willie
at
Donick, yours
no.
truly, Darren McFarland. In what order, we don't know.
But
photo finish.
A dear friend who actually introduced me to a lot of people in Nashville, present company included, that I consider dear friends now.
Yes.
And that's why I come to Nashville every year just to hang out.
Yeah.
How do I do this? I've got 30 seconds to say thank you to both of you. You've both been great friends over the years. It was great when you all came to Nick's Memorial, which I must say is unlike any memorial I've ever been to.
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. And he would have hated every second of it. And then after every story, he would have said, that's right. It did happen.
Special
Danny?
night, special man.
Thank you for being here. Jimmy?
Thank you.
Great seeing you.
You too. Thanks, gentlemen.
Okay, we're out of here for hour number 2. We've had some